Welcome to the final interview this month on Unapologetically Original. Today we are meeting the insanely talented Frank Ferrante. Frank is an actor, director, producer, described by the New York Times as the greatest living interpreter of Groucho Marx's material. So Frank was discovered by Groucho's son Arthur when he was a drama student at the University of Southern California. And Frank originated the off-Broadway title role in Groucho, A Life in Review, which earned him an Outer Critics Circle nomination, and he reprised the role in London's West End and was nominated for the Laurence Olivier Awards for Comedy Performance of the Year. So Frank will be with us very shortly. I'm going to add him to this live video. Right, here we go.
Hey Priyanka, how are you? Good morning.
I'm good. Good morning. So good to see you after so long.
I know it's been like 2.5 years or so, right? 2 years
It
ago,
has.
summer.
Yes, I was just going to say that last time we met was at UVA when I think 2017,
18,
right?
2018, yeah.
2018, right when you brought the coconuts to the Heritage Theatre Festival. And I remember you were invited to speak with the drama students, and it was a very inspiring conversation. And the one thing that you repeatedly said to us actors was to create our own solo work. And I started writing my solo show that summer. So thank you for that piece of advice. And you were also very gracious about, speaking at length about solo shows and what goes into being a solo performer. And today I hope that everyone watching can be inspired by you and apply some of what they learn in their creative work.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you for that so much. It was a treat to meet you back then, and I was excited that someone was actually already in the thick of creation. So I was able to identify with where where you were creatively at the time. So
Thank you for
yeah.
that. Frank, I wanted to start off by saying that I'm amazed by how effortlessly you fill the space you're in with your energy and presence, especially when you're on stage. And I'm in complete awe of how you take over the space as a solo performer. So could you speak a little bit about what helps you get there and maintain that level of engagement throughout the show?
Well, that's a great question, and one I haven't contemplated because I just pretty much instinctive in a lot of ways, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that I've done it so often, Priyanka. I generally the more you do, the better you get, and I've had a lot of at bats over the years, but I think it has to do a lot with really believing in the character, believing everything you're doing, every tiny nuanced movement, motion, you have to be able to really think like that character, so you're not inhibited, so you're able to build every time you take on a performance and work with an audience. My show's very interactive, and that was a choice. The show didn't start off that way. It started off as pretty much a set book show with an occasional ad lib, but I realized that the audience from the 80s to the 90s to now appreciate the engagement, particularly when you're dealing with an historical figure like Groucho Marx. Not everyone knows who he is, and my job is to reach them, to touch an audience, and to make them excited about this character and the character's world, as I am and as I was when I was a child. So I have to tap into the joy for the subject material, for the subject matter. And every time, before I go on, and I've done it, as you know, hundreds of times, and for a long time I've done it, I always say to myself, share the joy. It's just kind of a mantra, share the joy, because he gave me so much pleasure, this character, in that kind of comedy. I was thinking about it because I knew I was going to be speaking with you this morning, that it really was the exhilaration of humor, of comedy, of seeing life differently, of not playing by the rules, that really flipped my switch and got me into the world of comedy, and then it branched out to theater in general. Really, I love storytelling, and I love stories being told on stage. And the more specific, I think, the more interesting. I'm working with a good friend of mine, a partner of mine, on a one-person show. She's working on it, and we talk about specificity all the time. Your experience is your own experience with your show, which I have not seen. I've read, but I've not seen. but it's a specific tale. No one can tell the story that you're telling. And in the case of like a figure that existed, an historical figure like Groucho, it's my job to make him, as I said, accessible. And what is it about him? You know, his lunacy, his intensity, his intelligence, his wit, his rhythms. These are all qualities that I have to bring forth that are also very specific. But as an actor, I'm bringing specific skill to it. So my Groucho is going to be different than someone else's take on this character. But it's the details that are important so often in a show like yours or mine. I'm not sure that answers your question. In fact, I forgot your question at this point. But
No, but I love what you covered though about being specific.
You're
Yeah.
talking about filling the space, and I think that has to do with just being anchored to the character, anchored to the work and to the text. And I think that's, if you're anchored, you can fill up a space. If you feel comfortable and like you feel like you've sunk into it, you know, you could do anything. So, it's, for me, I've always saw it as do or die. I've always, it's always been extreme. I always, I think I come from a comedian's point of view. I'm a theater person with an emphasis on humor. I've done a lot of non-funny work too, sometimes not intentionally, but it had. That's just the way. I forgot, I lost my thread there, but you get the drift there.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
That's great. And you've been described by the New York Times as the greatest living interpreter of Groucho Marx's material.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever anticipate early in your career, maybe when you were still a drama student, that this would become such a huge part of your career?
No, I didn't. I always loved him. I loved the Marx Brothers. I loved early comedy, American comedy mostly, and it thrilled me. I had no idea that this would be a through line in my career. And if it was just that part of my career, Priyanka, that was everything or the main part of it, I think it would be difficult because that doesn't interest me to play one role. Though I'm proud that I get to do this character and evolve with him. As I get older, I think the performance gets more interesting and more confident and more anchored. But if I wasn't able to direct other plays or play other roles or play the cirque character that I've created for 20 years, which is a Groucho-esque character, I've had a lot at bats at that too. So I really enjoy the shared experience, the communal experience. I like the audience. I like, after 9/11, being able to go back and play to crowds, and everyone was shoulder to shoulder. Everyone wanted to be together after, and I think this will be a similar scenario coming up down the line where people want to. It's a kind of a sacred moment when we're all together, and there's the storyteller, and it goes back certainly hundreds of thousands of years. So I'm looking forward to the return to the live experience, and I'm glad you're doing this to share what we're doing. But to answer your question, no, I didn't think that would dominate my creative life, and I'm happy it is because I got so into it. I got to know the family so well. Groucho Marx's son hired me to portray his father. I mean, arguably the funniest man the country produced is Groucho Marx, and I get to be this guy, this actor, who interprets him, who shares him with audiences, not just in the States, but all over the world. I did 2 tours of Australia. I played London. I played over Canada. So that is satisfying to be able to share something that I'm passionate about. It's a specific kind of humor. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love brash, tell the truth humor, in your face, holding up the mirror comedy, and that's Groucho. And we play by the rules, and we're taught to play by the rules. He didn't play by the rules, and as a shy kid growing up in Catholic school and being threatened by nuns, it was a thrill to see this wise guy on the screen when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, who was fearless, who was armored, who said what he wanted to say and did what he wanted to do, and got in a crafted, brilliantly funny way. what I love about him is that he also spent years on the road honing his persona along with his brothers. And I feel like I'm one of the lucky few that gets, I guess you consider me a new vaudevillian, like someone like Bill Irwin, who is doing a style from yesterday, but is making it his own. And I like to think that I put my own spin on the Groucho character or the Cirque character I play. It's called the Caesar, which is this wild Latin lover character, and also very interactive, inappropriate, and kind of scary. The way Groucho to me is Groucho's dangerous, if you ask me. I still find him dangerous. Because he trades in chaos, and and so does my Caesar character, and I love that type of. I like seeing the tables upturned in a creative manner, in the way Groucho did.
That's lovely. I want to know the story about how you were discovered by Groucho's son Arthur during your time at USC, and how did that lead to your originating the off-Broadway title role in Groucho: A Life in Review?
Well, that's a great question, and I was a student at the University of Southern California in the Division of Drama. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I spent the first couple of years as a communication arts major, which is really kind of meaning I didn't know what I wanted to do. That's, one of those catch-all, can be one of those catch-all majors. But, by my junior year, I kind of looked at the truth of the matter is that I wanted to be in the theater. I wanted to perform. It was it was an embarrassing thing for me to admit because I don't come from it. My family doesn't come from it. The odds of having any success or being able to make a living in any way, shape, or form is slim, and it seemed risky and foolish on some level to me. But my desire, I'm so pulled, and now I realize that's all I've done in my life for 35, 36 years, is work in the theater, work in the arts, and I've been really blessed with that. But to answer your question, I finally decide I'm going to be a drama major. So I studied theater, and in my junior year, I had a great mentor, and we need mentors. I think we talked about this.
Yes.
Talk to people who can help you, who've done it, and that's a huge thing. And I still do it. I always go in, and it can be humbling, but I know this much. There are experts in every field. And so in this case, I had a teacher, Professor William White, who's since passed away, and he said, Frank, we have a 490 class, which is directed research, meaning you can do whatever you want to do. So what? I'll help you put together a class. And that class, I was really two classes. I received 8 units to produce an evening with Groucho. So my job was, Priyanka, to find the script, to get designers, to secure the theater, to raise money, to do publicity, marketing, all of it.
Wow.
And then perform in a one-man show. Get the accompanist. It was a massive undertaking, but it was the best. I couldn't have had a better education. I saw the reality of what it's like to put on a show when I was 21, 22. And I had great support from the faculty there, from my fellow students, some who ended up designing the show and working on the show, helped me produce the show. And so there I was on the campus of USC, and I broke it in. There's something very important about a tryout. You have to, and I believe in the concept of trying out something, out of the kind of in the outskirts a bit before you get in front of critics or, in a big city. Well, this case, it was my church hall where I grew up in Sierra Madre and the O'Malley Center. And I found myself there at night, Priyanka. It'd be midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, working on Groucho's voice with a tape recorder, reel to reel, probably audio cassette at the time. And I just would rehearse and practice, and it was kind of a bit of a holy moment. In fact, that here I was below this church. It seemed actually irreligious in a way. I'm playing this anti-everything character, Jewish character, and there I was under the altar, putting the show together. I remember selling tickets to it outside of Mass in Groucho makeup. I mean, it was really seemed inappropriate, and absolutely wonderful. So the show, I did 2 performances at my church hall, and went really well. and it was a really daring move. And there was 600 people showed up, and I was supported by my community. And then that was in the summer. And then the following spring is when I put on the show on campus. And that's when Arthur Marx, Groucho Marx's son, showed up. I invited everyone that ever knew Groucho, from Lucille Ball, people he'd worked with, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon, every one of the surviving Marx Brothers writers, these great comedy writers. But the ones that showed up or said yes to coming to the show, Priyanka, were Arthur Marx, Groucho's son, who was a writer, had a play about his father. Groucho Marx's daughter, Miriam, she shows up. And then Maury Riskant, who is a Pulitzer Prize-winning, Academy Award-winning writer, he showed up. He was 89. He wrote for the Marx Brothers. He wrote Animal Crackers, A Night at the Opera, two bona fide, out-and-out classic comedy films. They all show up. I'm 22. Wow. It's my 22nd birthday, and they're all out there in the audience. And I'm nauseous before I go on. And I put on the performance, and people stood up at the end at the Bing Theater on the USC campus. And Arthur Marx said to me, if I ever do a show about my father again, I'd like to use you. I thought, yeah, right. I graduate a couple weeks later, and in fall, I was performing in Arthur Marx's show, Groucho, in which I played Groucho from age 15 to 85. I'm 22, and I'm playing a 15-year-old to an 80, to a 70-year span. And I've never really acted. So in a way, I had to work backwards after that. So that show, the guys who own this dinner theater in Kansas City, I couldn't believe they were paying me to do this. The show went so well that they wanted to produce it in New York. And those theater owners raised enough money to take the show off Broadway. And that's where I opened in New York, and when I was 23 years old, in Groucho, A Life in Review. And that show played for about 10 months, received wonderful reviews and awards, and the public seemed to really love it. And then it moved to London, to the West End. And that was a big deal, obviously, as well. And so that's how it started. Arthur Marx and I became friends, and best friends. And it was a very beautiful, odd relationship, in that somehow we needed each other and were pulled to each other. And I loved him, he loved me, and there came a point, Priyanka, where it wasn't really about Groucho wasn't in the room as he got older in his 80s, and we weren't working together. I'd sit in his backyard, and I felt like I was with another 35-year-old pal, and it was a true friendship that was born out of this work that we did together, because we had to rewrite. The script was rewritten and written and tweaked, and your previews, and there's a lot of stress, and it's a miracle if your show succeeds. As you know, it's
yes.
It's the fact that you can come up, first of all, with a good piece of work. That unto itself is miraculous. The fact that you can get it in front of people is a whole other story. That's almost more challenging at times. Sometimes it seems like the easiest part is the creation. It's trying to get it in front of people, so that you can, see how it stands. I've been doing the show for all these years, and I'm still tweaking it. I'm still learning from the audience. I'm still inventing new material. Thankfully, the kind of show that this is, the play that I do, allows for so much interaction, and a lot of my work, aside from Groucho, does too. That thrills me, that kind of immediacy, the audience response. But anyway, back to the Arthur story. That's how Arthur Marx and I became friends, because he saw the show, and he ended up hiring me. And so I imagine this man, who was in his 60s at the time, he wrote this play with Robert Fisher, and he was directing it in New York. So the son of my hero wrote the show and is directing this play. And he allowed me. He said to me, Frank, if there's anything you don't like about this, let me know in terms of text. I thought that was a gigantic, a magnanimous gesture, because I was such a kid. He's going to allow me the opportunity to actually collaborate and participate, and I did. I helped cut, I helped shape. If Groucho came off in a way that I thought was inappropriate, I'd call him on it and said, and that was a wonderful thing to be able to do, because my job was to fight for Groucho, even if Arthur, so sometimes Arthur and I would be a little bit like this, rarely, but I felt my number one priority was to protect Groucho, and not just in the way, not just whitewash him. I just thought it should be balanced, the portrait of him, and I had some control over that, how he came off.
That's lovely.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, to play an American, an international icon, and with the son of that icon was fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything worked out.
Yeah.
What was it like playing the role of Groucho Marx at Philadelphia's Walnut Street Theatre, a place where the Marx Brothers themselves had performed?
Well, that's one of the joys, Priyanka, is since I've played so many theaters, I've played everything from church halls to 2,000-seat state-of-the-art theaters to chapels that have been, renovated converted into theaters. I've played 150, 125 seaters. I've played, all kinds of venues, university venues, vaudeville palaces, and that's really what the Walnut Street Theater is. It's the oldest continuously running theater in the world, the Walnut Street Theater in Philadelphia. And my dear friend Bernard Havard has run it for almost 40 years. And I've been able to go there and direct work, non-Groucho work, and original work there, which is, that's always a thrill, as you know, coming up with something from scratch, or being able to direct and develop someone else's work, a play, which I've been able to do that with a show called Old Wicked Songs. I did that in their smaller space, in their second space, and it went on to get a Pulitzer. It was a Pulitzer finalist, and you never know what but I knew this play was going to be great. But the Walnut has allowed me to have these experiences, create new work, develop new work, and also do Groucho. I mean, over the years, the first show I ever did there was in 1993, which was Groucho Life in Review, which was after New York, and that's when they brought me in. Bernard had seen me out of town, and there's a scene in Groucho Life in Review in which the Harpo character drops 200 pieces of silverware out of his sleeve as I'm shaking his hand. Are you sure you don't have anything in there that belongs in Mrs. Rittenhouse? And he's going, shaking his head, and every time he shakes his head or moves, silverware comes through, and it's a torrent of 200. Eventually, it's a torrential storm of silverware coming out of the sleeve that he's stolen. It's all this. Anyway, Bernard, I hear this laugh in the theater that's just so beautiful and rich, bellowing. Turned out it was Bernard Havard who said, hey, I love the show. I want you to come to my theater and do it. And so that was the start of it. So it was 1993, which was 70 years after the Marx Brothers had played this theater. No, this theater is a celebrated theater. If you love tradition, if you love the tradition of the theater, you have to go to the Walnut Street Theater and just walk around. Everyone has played there. From Brando played there in Streetcar Named Desire. It goes back to the Barrymore family, to the Booth family owned it, of John Wilkes Booth back in the 1850s. Helen Hay, everyone has played there. I mean, and Neil Simon, a lot of shows originated there too, debuted there. So I'm there 70 years after the Marx Brothers played there. And the Marx Brothers still have the record for the most consecutive weeks selling out at the Walnut Street Theater. In Philadelphia, Priyanka, if you don't know, was a tryout town for Broadway shows, as was New Haven and I believe Boston. Does that make sense? I think that was it. So certain towns were tryout towns, so you can safely, kind of sneak it, kind of work out the kinks before you hit New York. So anyway, I'm in the Walnut Street Theater, and I do Groucho Life in Review, and at the end there was a talkback, and this old man stands up, and he goes, I'm 87 years old, he says. I said, I was here 70 years ago when the Marx Brothers were on this very stage that you're on, young man. I saw Harpo Marx drop 200 pieces of silver out of his sleeve right on that very same spot where that young man did it. So that's the beauty of that. So, when I walk around backstage, when I see the brick, it's like, to me, it's breathtaking, knowing, that, Chico Marx was back there, and chasing some gal around, or God knows what was going on with those crazy people. But they were a lot of laughter happened, with those guys. They were crazy men, and then there was a party with the Marx Brothers. But the point is, there's a ton of history at that theater. Thomas Jefferson saw a play there and was at the opening. So anyway, one funny thing, one of the being that it is an old theater, it's being remodeled and fixed up, and it's a beautiful looking theater. But there was one time I was doing a performance of Groucho Life in Review, and all of a sudden, mid-sentence, plaster from the proscenium arch comes falling down on me, on my head, my shoulders. And I turned to the audience and said, I've heard of bringing down the house, but this is ridiculous. But and I got a huge laugh. But this is the joy of this role is really allowed me to see different, great cities, play great theaters, meet a lot of people. And that's been a joy, is meeting the audience and the community and developing that. So I could be in Paducah, Kentucky, and people will come from a couple hours away who've seen it before, saw it in Dubuque or wherever. People come from distances now to see the show, which is a thrill. And if I'm here in Pasadena at the Pasadena Playhouse, it's my hometown. Mm-hmm. You can sell that out. You can do 3 shows, sell out a couple thousand seats. And a lot of these people remember me from the 80s when I was there, and now it's 2020. And that's a great feeling, to have this connection to an audience. And I do miss that right now, because I've made a lot of friends and acquaintances and have a lot of supporters that I have been able to interact with over the years. That's been a great joy in my life, to have this kind of this community, to feel like you're connected over something like this. In this case, a funny show about a great humorist, like someone at the ilk of Mark Twain or Will Rogers. I put Groucho Marx way up there, and we need to laugh. I'm lucky that I feel fortunate that I gravitated to someone whose life was all about humor. So, because there's no better sound, as you know, than laughter, than receiving that kind of laughter, and to be able to conjure it and conduct it and help take an audience on that surf with you. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and thank you for talking so much about the theater as well. I live in Philadelphia now, so I can't
you do?
go.
Oh, you're kidding! Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just moved here about 3 months ago.
Well, then I'll see you out there, hopefully sooner than later.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So you're an exceptional actor, singer, dancer, voiceover artist, director, producer. Is there anything Frank Ferrante does not do or cannot do? And let me frame it this way. Is there anything else that you're waiting to delve into?
That's a great question, because right these days I have a lot of, we have more time. And this is the longest I've gone in a year without working. And you wonder what else, and you wonder what it's going to be like at the end of this. Now, as a freelancer, I'm eternally hopeful. I'm an optimist by nature, and though I have those, like everyone, have those ups and down moments. And this has been a very challenging time for people like me, maybe, and you, my peers, our peers. I see people going into, and I admire it, different businesses, because they have families and children, and they wonder how this is all going to play out. I don't think it's going to be the same way as we know it, and it shouldn't be. The theater needs to represent the times, but I think it's going to take and what's happening, societally, and it's needed a correction, certainly. But I think it's going to be different in terms of economics. I don't think people are going to make the same kind of money for a while. I think audiences are still going to be a little wary in terms of getting out there. But I also believe that audiences are craving the community that we're discussing. I think we are compelled. It's in our DNA to be together, to share experiences in person. This is not the same, certainly. This is close. It's a wonderful facsimile thereof, but it's not the same as feeling the energy of the storytellers and your fellow audience members and your community around you, and sharing that experience. To get back to your question, I've always said I just want to continue to do what I've always done, which is, I'm always reinventing myself. Someone needs something to direct. I never directed. I can direct it. Someone asks me if I can direct it. Can you write a play about this character? Sure, I can write a play, and I just do it. Can you play a dying 85-year-old comedian, Groucho Marx, when I was 20? Sure, why not? I've never done it before. Can you work in the circus world, and come up with a character and interact with people in the middle of a circus ring? That's insane. Talk about exposed. Yeah, I'll do it, and I've been doing that for years. So, it's a great question. I just edited. The newest thing is I have my one-man show, which was just edited and it looks beautiful. That was new, to take a live performance and put it successfully on film. And it was edited and it was directed and edited by Drea Weber, and it feels like the experience of of a theater show. You feel my prowling through the audience, and you feel like you're actually in the audience. And there aren't a lot of shows that are shot well that are live shows. You can see a lot of times, even some of the best shows I've seen still have an archival feel to them. It's kind of, but this doesn't. This, you feel like you're on my shoulder. So that has been a great project. So you had to learn how to sell be able to sell yourself, which is something I've never felt comfortable with, that I've had to learn how to do over the years. Market myself, publicize myself, represent myself. But I don't know. I mean, listen, I thought about, I don't want to retire. I have a long way. I got another 35 years or so. But I would like to continue to do new work. That thrills me. I'd like to partner up with, always trying. It's not easy, as to create a new work, as you did. But I've had lightning hit a couple times with some really terrific writing that I was able to direct. I'd love to direct a new piece. To be in it would be a bonus, but mostly I would love to direct a new work. That would give me a thrill. I've been enjoying taking care of my little garden, and maybe I can go into landscaping. There's always that. I keep a clippers in my car, just in case I see something. Gotta. Anyway, but I'm finding out that it's okay. I've worked so much, Priyanka, over the years. I mean, I realized I didn't sleep for years.
Yeah.
And I just didn't. And I would live off a couple, 2-3 hours or so, 4 hours in all the travels. And part of me, even though it's a challenge, it's not exactly helping my financial life, to not do it is okay. It's okay to talk. Here's the day of Thanksgiving. Like, I'm thankful I get to spend time with my kids that I thought I'd never be able to make up because I was on the road. And so when I was with them, I tried to get every second in, and it was all heightened. It was concentrated. Here, it could breathe again. There's continuity. There's being able to help my mom who had a health issue that she's fine now. To have been here in April when she got ill, I would have been on the road. I'd be on the road right now. So these are the blessings of this very challenging time, and thankfully none of us are ill. They're getting ill. But to answer your question, I don't know what's left. I want to just keep doing it. I still want to be I still want to be able to move audiences. I want to get back at it. I want to you always want a bigger audience. I've always been like a working guy, a journeyman performer, not a name. I've just been a guy that's really worked hard and has gotten better, I think, with time. And I feel I've been appreciated, and I want to continue to tell stories as you do. That's it. So I can't get too lofty about it. It's like, well, I just try to do, but I do try to think of the kind of work that I want to do. What in the age that we're in, you want to be relevant, and I celebrate a style at times, and not always, that is of yesterday. And so it's trying to make it current. That is always going to be my challenge, or just doing completely different styles of work, which is exciting too.
Right. And you mentioned a little bit about this, but this is pre-COVID times. You're so prolific. as a performer and an artist, and the sheer number of performances and characters you play and voiceovers and
Hmm.
projects that you're involved in. How do you stay in tune with the available time, your personal bandwidth, and the balance between doing enough and doing too much? And I'm asking this because I'm constantly struggling with overcommitting and being afraid to say no or not doing enough. So, how do you do it?
Well, right now, honestly, there's not a ton going on.
Right.
Normally, like I said, I'd be traveling. So, what's your main? What you talk about the bandwidth? You say, yeah,
Yeah.
I had a hard time saying no to most things because
Hmm.
I always felt like, what if it ends?
Right.
What happens when it stops? So I'm not one to say no. Someone, I don't like at the Walnut, they said, of course you can't say no to did you want to direct and perform in this? You say yes, but then you get smaller little gigs or also just in doing anything like this or helping a friend or doing any kind of radio. I generally say yes.
Mm.
Milton Berle, the first great TV comedian, I think I mentioned this to you, he'd always say yes, Francis, say yes. I get what he meant,
Mm.
but it's tricky. I never had good boundaries with work, and I'll be honest with you. I figured I did it, I took it, and I did it. So I can't give you great advice on that, Priyanka. And now I have this opportunity to look out a little bit for myself and consider
Mm.
my, spiritual health, mental health, physical health, all which is, I'd rather be working, I love doing shows because I love the structure of it. My exercise was the jumping around doing a show. My community was being around other performers and crew members and being in a community of, I became friends with a lot of cab drivers, uh, hotel, people at hotels, people on planes. I had that kind of life where I got to know people. I love that. I love striking up conversations with strangers, and then
Mm.
I'd be so moved by the story. And you found like, my gosh, I think I'm closer to this cab driver than to my own brother. It turns out, but in some cases, um, but you know what I'm saying. You get to know people on the road. Um, anyway, there you go.
What is your ultimate goal as an artist? You made very clear that you're nowhere close to done. So, do you have a vision of the legacy that you'd like to leave behind for future generations?
Yeah, I think my goal is to continue to work. I think I have a lot of stamina. One of my heroes is Hal Holbrook, who did Mark Twain Tonight. I'm looking at a
Hmm.
poster of his right now. He's 95 years old, and he did his one-person show for 62 years. And Twain deals with social issues, as you know, and humor. And he took that piece around the world and did it until he was 92 years old. He also did other things in his career very successfully, from film, television, and theater. He played everything from King Lear to Willy Loman. He was Deep Throat and All the President's Men. He's got a colossal career. And so when you ask me this, I always see, my feeling is consistency. I want to be consistent. I want to continue. I want to work with different creative people. And I don't, again, that's my vision is that I'm doing it to the very end, till I'm in my 90s, because I'm not, that's the way I'm designed. I think actors and artists, that word is thrown around a lot, maybe too loosely sometimes, but we want to, we just want to keep doing it. We want to keep evolving. I just want to continue to be surrounded by talented people that are also daring, you know, daring producers, people that see the madness. And like even in the cirque world, it takes a lot of guts to to bring together a variety of insanely talented, artists. I've been lucky because I've worked in the, when I say cirque world, I mean literally it's just, these are cirque shows I've done. So these
Hmm.
people, these are people that are risking life and limb. This is that's the circus tradition, which goes back, how many hundred, dozens of generations. So I like tradition. I like being part of the tradition, Priyanka. Like Hal Holbrook. Hal Holbrook always said to me, he goes, I love that you respect the tradition so much, meaning that the stage tradition, the live performance tradition. It's an odd, I've always felt like a bit of an anachronism, Priyanka, is that, I mean, what a bizarre way to make a living. Who, it doesn't make sense. Why, I mean, it's in this modern age, in a technical age, more technical than ever, that you want to go out there and be in front of people. It's an insane thought. And I always thought, well, eventually maybe this medium, this is gonna, maybe it's gonna end, or maybe how can this continue? But it does and always will. Um, it's so strange to me that of all the professions that have gone down, the live profession went down during this pandemic, and it's one of the the earliest, one of the first. When people are sitting around in a cave, someone was telling a joke or dropping a rock on someone's foot and getting a laugh, and so it's strange to think that the live world is on hold right now. The greatest talent, the greatest actors and writers are kind of, well, but we're all trying to find other ways to land on the other side, and whether it means self-care or writing something or continuing to study, whatever it takes, staying engaged in the world, continuing to observe how we all function as humans and how we're dealing with the crises of our times. All that is what an act, our job is to be open and take it all in. And that's what I have always tried to do. I'm very, I try to be sensitive to those around me, what they're going through, and we somehow reflect it back, hopefully in our work, whether you're a writer or an actor or director. So that never ends, the engagement in humanity, so we can create. You have to know what your fellow human is up to, so you can become that fellow human, so you can tell the story. But I think I think it's going to be an interesting time in a couple of years. What emerges from this era. But anyway, to get back to your initial question, I just want to continue to be in the world of live theater. And I also, my hope for myself is that I'm able to navigate the changing times and be a vital part of it still. I love directing. I love the direct work that somehow reflects on what we're going through right now. Different people, I would like to be part of that process of creating new work that reflects, I said, some of certainly the ups and downs of this era. So.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
A major part of your performances, Frank, are improvised, right? So what is your personal technique in looking for opportunities for improvisation and making it work? Is thinking on your feet, do you think it's a natural skill, or do you think it can be learned?
That's a good question. I don't know if it can be learned. I mean, I think you can learn a great deal. I've studied, I would say study the masters, and I studied, from the time I was very young, I was studying the masters. So that was in me, ingrained in me.
Yeah.
So I knew the sound of Groucho when I was 9, 10 years old. I knew his rhythms. I knew Jack Benny's pauses when I was a boy. I knew about taking time with humor, pushing how long you can, hold a take, or respond. And I love Barry Humphries, Dame Edna, who knows no one can work a crowd like Dame Edna, and I love Dame Edna, and I find myself really absorbing Dame Edna. I've seen Dame Edna live, and I've seen hours and hours of tape, and watching how Dame Edna within that character, Barry Humphries within the character of Dame Edna, deal with celebrities, everyday folk, various formats, whether it's a quiz show, an interview show, a live show. I think it helps if you have an aptitude to start off with for it. I think not everyone is funny, and everyone thinks they're funny. That we're in an age where everyone thinks they're a writer, everyone thinks they're a comedian, everyone's a photographer now because they have an iPhone, and it's changed a bit, and it doesn't mean that people, everyone's everyone's a star, and everyone, it's strange to me. It's like, why am I did it the old fashioned way. I'm just like, what am I doing? Working so hard. But it's at bats too, Priyanka. I've had lots of, as I said, a lot of at bats. So the more you do, the better you get. And so I think sometimes the hardest audiences I've ever had is when I got really good. If I was in Florida at a matinee and there were older people in the audience, which I finally learned, it took me years to realize it's not a judgment that's happening from older. It's inability to actually give you the kind of sound that you can get from someone in their 20s or 30s. It's just that's the reality. It's just where it's the inability to have the physical capacity to guffaw and to slap your knee, and it's okay. Doesn't mean that an older audience isn't enjoying. But for a comedian, you want to hear noise, you want to hear laughter, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world. It doesn't matter, and you get into life or death mode. We talk about extremes. To me, it's like that's why we call it killing it and slaying it and let's murder it. Knock them dead. There's a reason. It has to. The adrenaline that goes it courses through your body, is very much a real thing. And I refuse to let an audience peter out. I mean, I fight hard, and I've not always scored, but mostly I have, but back to the Florida matinee, that's when I'll drop the script and just go crazy. I'll just get into the nuttiest, most bizarre kind of tangent. I'll just go off. And that's when I discover new work. Or if an audience is tough or it's small, it's like, well, I feel a great pride in what I do because I'm representing not just myself, but also this legend, this legacy of Groucho. I feel there's a lot on my shoulders. Or even when I'm doing this Caesar, that cirque character, I figure, wow, I'm alone in the center ring, and my job is to, I don't know what that noise is. Is that me or you?
That's our fire alarm going off.
Priyanka, you should get the hell out of there.
No, I have someone who'll take care of that.
That's very, very subtle. I could take a hint. And it could just gotten a hook would have been easier. Listen,
what timing?
Listen, I'm tired of hearing myself as well, Priyanka. Don't worry about it.
See there? It's gone.
Okay. So anyway, just to finish it up, it's it's practice, at bats, study the masters, and just keep doing it. And don't be afraid you're going to bomb too. You're going to fail. And you're going to walk off stage going, oh, I can't believe I just did that. And then you go back the next day, back in the ring. It's like a boxer. And you just do it all over again. And you get better and better and better and better and better. That's really what it is. So.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sorry about the alarm.
I liked it.
But hey, we got to see a great improvisational moment there.
I don't know how great, but.
Why do you think solo shows and one-person shows are important for actors and performers? Because I remember you spoke about that a lot when we met at UVA. And how do you think they could benefit in developing their skills and also their careers through solo work?
Well, I've done 2 solo shows. One, the current one that I tour with, and even with Groucho, and I did one on George S. Kaufman, the great playwright director of the 20s, 30s, 40s, called By George. And the reason I think they're essential or important for an actor is that it's equals employment. It's inexpensive to produce. One, it gives you control. It gives you something to focus on, and I don't think there's anything better than having one in your pocket as an actor. A lot of the greats have one. And it can keep you going during difficult times. I've always had that, as you know, that again, that consistency of this show. I think it's important to have that. I think it's a great challenge. It's something that you can continue to work on. But I think it's great to have on a creative level and also financially. It's wise. And you can, and a one-person show you can do anywhere. You can do it in a garage. You can do it in at a major theater. So, and the other part of that question that was the first part. What was part 2?
Part 2, you kind of spoke about it. Yeah. How can their careers benefit from it?
Yeah, I just think that it allows you, I think there's more opportunity. You can have, it's like you found that out. In a way you've branded, it's branded. You have this play, it's getting great feedback. You're of the moment too. What's going on in the world? It's like lightning. It's perfect what you're doing right now, and yours is biographical, And you get to that way, you get to continue to evolve it. You can do this for another 40 years, 50, until you want to stop. That's a great feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I would be doing this show for 35 years. You know, who thinks that way? And there was a point where it's like, oh God, I can't believe I'm still doing this. And that's because I wasn't doing other things to supplement it, to challenge me. And I didn't want to be just the Groucho guy. I wanted to be a theater guy, working theater guy. So that's thankfully changed. But to get back to what, why is it important? Well, you know already that it's very satisfying. It's also satisfying to have it mostly on your shoulders, to have that kind of control in a business where you don't always have control, in a life that you don't always have control. You have seeming control when you're on stage. Anyone can jump in and shoot us or whatever. But there's a sense of being in charge and control. Being at the center to tell that story is a potent responsibility, and it's a very satisfying to be able to paint the picture for an audience and take them on a journey. There's nothing better than that. I know some wonderful actors. I love getting lost in their style, and those who write their own. It's always fascinating to me to get engaged with it. Whether it's a Dame Edna. I have a friend named, remember Kevin Kent, who played Margaret Dumont, the society matron in The Coconuts. I don't know if you saw The Coconuts, but he did it in drag. And I always believe everything he's doing. And I was watching Lucille Ball. This is what I do in the middle of the night. I was watching interviews with Lucille Ball, and I don't know, I went down a Lucille Ball rabbit hole. And she's fascinating because I always believed everything she does. I always believe everything Jackie Gleason does. And I think that's a lot of it, is that it helps when you actually believe, when you believe who you are, that character, and you believe in your material. We're all taking the ride with you. And those comedians that seem so broad at times, like I always believed Lucille Ball. When she was trying to get that chocolate, get that chocolate, off the conveyor belt, wrapped. I mean, sure, it was goofy and extreme, but it was complete commitment to the action. That's it. When Chaplin is committed, the Marx Brothers are fully committed to the madness. Anyway.
Do you have any plans? You said that there's a video recording of it, of making your work available on streaming platforms.
No, the big thing is for me, I don't really. I'll do things on Facebook on occasion. I'll do a talk or interview people through my an evening with Groucho Facebook page, which is basically a fan page for the show and for the Marx Brothers, and that's a fun community. Which I'm part of, and I've streamed a living room performance out of there early on in the pandemic in March, and that was fun. You get 20,000 or so people, which was fine for that little page, and again that becomes a community experience, and it was a reminder that we're here, we're not going anywhere. It's getting trickier now. There's a lot of stuff streaming now. Everyone's streaming, and there's a lot of competition for eyeballs, and how do you stand out as sometimes a question, with all that's going on. I'm very excited though about this, the DVD. I'm hoping for looking at a broadcast deal for Groucho. So that'll be the first.
Yeah.
And I'd like to get it back out there in a big way. Short of that, it'll be available and distributed. And I don't know. It could be self-distributed. It could be. Who knows? Or just sold through as a DVD. But I don't. I really have a streaming platform. Do you? Do you do that? Is this it right here? Is it?
This is it. No, but I've been wondering if during the pandemic, if I should stream it live. But then it's already been done, because the live performance at the Millennium Stage at the Kennedy Center was also live streamed. So I don't know what new aspect I'd be bringing in. So I'm just holding on for the moment.
Right.
And seeing what happens.
So your show your one-person show was streamed already, and it's archived somewhere.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
I'll send you a link to it.
I'd love to see it. That sounds great. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you, by the way. I'm proud because you were talking about it early on, and you were kind of picking my brain a little bit. So to see that you've had such success, Priyanka, is really heartening.
Oh,
So congratulations to
thank you
you.
so much,
Yeah,
Frank.
yeah, it's great. It's pretty
And you've had
amazing.
a role to play in it, and you don't even know it, but for
Yeah.
sure, a huge role, because that was the time that I was starting out and I was just absorbing all the advice, and you've had a huge role to play in its success. So you
Well,
know
if
that.
I had this much, I'd be happy. So I'm happy, really thrilled for you. And,
Thank you.
and
Thank
and
you so much.
and we're related practically in our solo work. There's some
Yeah.
kind of a kindred. We're kindred in that. I have a real affinity for those who do solo shows because it takes a certain type. As Hal Holbrook said to me, it takes a certain kind of insanity, he said, and desperation in a way. And I know what he means. You desperately need to do it. He didn't mean you're a desperate human being, but there's like this
Mhm.
desperate, you feel so compelled that there's no other choice but to do it. And I've always felt that way. The idea of doing anything else but what I do is an insane thought. It doesn't cross my mind that, oh yeah, maybe I should do this or that. It really doesn't. And I'm one of the fortunate ones, and you're a fortunate one too. But the king of the one person show is Hal Holbrook. He really did put it on the map back in the 50s, and it was televised. Imagine in the 60s, there were like 20 some million people that watched the show on television, a one person show, one guy doing a 90-minute monologue of Twain's work and interact. I mean, how great to be able to bring this life to viewers, to bring Twain, and so I think it's a beautiful form. I love the form. I honestly, I would love to produce more one-person shows because mine will be, as I said, available within the year. I would like to have like, a series of six, not just my own, but find other actors who have great one-person
Yeah.
shows, film them, and get them out into the world. And that's something I've always wanted to do. Because,
Right. And is that for a specific genre like comedy, or
it
are
wouldn't
you open
matter.
to
Yeah, it wouldn't, sorry to interrupt you. It wouldn't matter. It could be drama,
Mhm.
comedy, it could be silent. It wouldn't matter to me. It just as long as it's well done, in my opinion,
Yeah.
that it had merit. In fact, I would love a variety. So I'm starting to think that way because I'm so pleased with the outcome of mine and
Hmm.
in terms of how it was edited and put together. And it's a lot of work. But I think we figured it out how to do these well. And I think an audience likes to get lost in an historical figure. I do. I like that kind of work. I like getting lost, and also not just doesn't have to be a historical figure, but could be someone like yourself, where you're telling your own story.
Hmm.
An autobiographical piece to me is also thrilling. That's what a great form that is, genre that is of the autobiographical solo form. So.
Yeah. So thank you for saying that. So anyone watching, if you think that you'd like to work with Frank,
Wait a minute.
get in touch with
Wait
him.
a minute. I'll get in touch with them.
Oh, you get
No,
in
I'm gonna
touch
be.
with him.
I'll
Yeah,
be.
don't spam him with your
I'll be
messages.
inundated. No, I'm kidding.
No, but thank you so much, Frank, for being a part of this interview series. I know it was a completely new thing that I started, and I appreciate that you jumped on board and were ready to do this. It's been such a pleasure speaking with
Likewise.
you.
Thank you. I'm so happy for you. Thank you for the gift of your spirit and talent, and
Um,
for celebrating our world, the performing arts. So thank you for that, and I wish you the very best, Priyanka. I'll talk
to
to you
you
soon.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
talk to you
yeah.
soon.
Take
Thank you,
care.
everyone, for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving. Take care. Bye-bye.